That's what's happening. Yeah.
I know sometimes, like when I look at my own life and you take a minute to stop and ask yourself, okay, what did I do 2 hours ago? What did I do 5 hours ago? What did I do 2 days ago?
Right. I listen to Dateline now and then, and my husband keeps saying, stop listening to Dateline because it makes him nervous. But, when they go, so 7 years ago on July 31st, like you said, I don't even remember what I told my, kids this morning, let alone 7 years ago. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is, it is. I remember my partner, she was sharing that. She's like, Turing is so predictable. I know because I'm such like a routine type of person. She's like, I know what you're gonna do this day, this day, this day. And I sat back and I thought, you're right. Like I do have a routine, but I think that's probably the reason why I don't remember a lot because some of it is just autopilot at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably. You probably just kind of sleepwalk through it. You got it going.
Yeah. Yeah. But speaking of relationships, I know we're going to talk about relationships that work, relationships that don't work, unfortunately. There are those, and based on the online feedback, there's a lot of those.
Yes, I've had a couple of them. Thank you.
There you go, right? So why don't we just jump right into this? Do me a favor, introduce yourself, and of course, tell my audience a little bit about who you are and where they can find you.
Okay, I am LisaBeth Thomas. As Trey knows, I go by LB. So if you ever reach out to me, please use LB. I am in Austin, Texas, actually. I'm outside of Austin in Blanco. And for 20 years, I had an ad agency here in Austin. It was extremely successful. And then I went through an incredible divorce, which is what we're going to talk about, that actually left me homeless and all the things that come with that. So we're going to talk about that. Uh, I would love to talk to you, to speak with you. If you're going through the same thing after we get done, you go, oh my God, I can relate. Reach out to me. My email is lb, as in Lisa Beth, lb@lisabeththomas.com. Very easy. Or go to lisabeththomas.com and my website will pop up along with my contact information. And if you're going through the same thing, do not hesitate because I can be there with you and I can walk you through the steps that I walk through to get to the other side.
Speaking of relationships, as we shared, like so many people struggle with it. So many people have gone through their breakup or divorce or separation, and some don't even get that far, to be very honest with you. When you were going through your situation from the very beginning, how did you end up married, then divorced, and ultimately homeless, as you shared?
I I shared with you a few minutes ago, my phrase is I wanted to marry so badly, I married so badly. And I really did. And I don't know why, Train. I don't know if it's because my parents divorced, and it doesn't matter my reasons why, but I wanted a family. I wanted that unit. And I was looking so hard and I was such a people pleaser and I put myself second to make everybody else happy, to make him happy, and I wasn't happy. And we'll get into more of those details later. And he was a bank president, and I had my ad agency production company, and he was a bank president and said, let me join you. I'll run your operations. And I was like, that's great. And we had a very successful ad agency. We had all the iconic businesses in Austin. We were a several million-dollar agency. And I knew from the very beginning I shouldn't have married him. I knew all the red flags were there. But again, out of my own insecurities, out of all of that, that I finally later discovered what those were, I said yes, and I married him. And when I knew I couldn't do it any longer, 10 years in, I don't remember how many years it was, um, I was afraid to do it again because I had been divorced before, and our kids were best friends, and we had clients, and we had employees, and I was like, I don't want to do this again. But there was a point in time that the mental abuse, sometimes physical, definitely financial, I finally said, I can't. And I woke up one day and went, I could be a waitress. I could do anything. I don't have to do this. And I finally made the decision to walk away. And then when I finally did walk away, as we're going through the divorce proceedings, found out, and again, he's to be a bank president, that he hadn't filed 3 years of our personal taxes. Not year before, year before, year before. I'm talking 9, 10, 11, 12 years before. I mean, years before. And he just disagreed. I'd signed him. He just disagreed with what the numbers were. And I know, I'm sure you know, because you're a businessman, was interest and penalties daily. And so during the divorce, I was keeping the business and the house. He was pleading hardship. He wanted to get out. So he only had to pay $50 a month to the IRS. The other hundreds of thousands of dollars was me, Harris. So that's how I ended up homeless. So when it finally push came to shove in a 3.5 month period, people, 3.5 month period from May to August 17th, I lost my business, I lost my home, and my mom died. 3.5 months. And then I was homeless for 6 months. Now, luckily, my children, my oldest daughter was married, living in San Antonio. My two youngest were up at Texas Tech up in Lubbock. So they didn't have to experience 6 months of homelessness, but they lost their home.
That is, I'm so sorry that you went through. That's such a sad, sad experience to go through. And I know a lot of people that speak about divorce. One thing that they shared is how is life going to be after divorce? What kind of lifestyle am I going to have? And you mentioned insecurities, you mentioned some of the struggles you had. When you decided to finally say, you know what, this relationship, this marriage is ending, what are some of, if any, the fears you had about your life, how your life is going to be after that?
I didn't know what my fears, I didn't know what my life was going to be after that. And that was what caused me all my turmoil. I just knew I couldn't have that anymore. I couldn't have the constant criticism, the put downs, and uh, the humiliation. And I found out later that he was telling clients that I was a whore. He would in front of our employees, would go talk to our employees and say that I wasn't creative. It was just this constant behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of. And I finally was like, that's it. And one of the biggest things for me is I say that it was the worst time of my life, but it ended up being the most wonderful because I had to learn about myself. And talking about insecurities. People would say to me, "Why don't you just go get more business? You're really successful ad agency." And I don't know if you've ever been in that kind of situation, Train, but my self-esteem was shot. My confidence was shot. And I went, if I went and got new business, which I couldn't have done because I didn't have the self-esteem anymore with what was going on, but I knew the IRS would just come and take that money. And I couldn't do that to people. I couldn't say, "Hey, let me do your advertising. Oh, by the way, it just went to the IRS." That's just not who I was. So I was like, no. So yeah, it
I
was
could I
horrible.
could imagine, right? Like you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to say, okay, you know what? I'm really good at this, but maybe I'm not so good at this. Right?
Yep.
To your point, right? I wanted it so badly, I decided to do it badly. And
Mhm.
that reminded me of I used to date this girl years ago. So my current partner, please don't shoot me for this. But years ago, she wanted to have children so badly. And I'm the type of person, as I mentioned earlier, right? I'm like routine. I like to plan it. Okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to work it out? And she's like, don't worry about it. We'll just do it and we'll go from there. I'm like, this are children, right?
Yeah.
This is not a
Yeah.
Lego block that you're building or some kind of, right? Box
We'll figure it
out
out
of
along the way.
toothpicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, right? So I was like, no. And this is when our relationship was ending. So when our relationship ended, I told her, you want children so badly that the next person after me, you're going to have them regardless of the type of guy that is.
Good
She met
point.
someone else. A couple months later, she was pregnant. And then not financial, sorry, physical abuse on both sides started happening because we still had like mutual friends. Like sometimes when you break up, you still have friends that are mutual to both people.
Right.
She used to share these stories. It ended up in court. The police were involved. And here I
No.
am, yeah, here I am thinking, you're pregnant and trying to be Xenia Warrior Princess at the same time. Right?
Right?
And it's scary because, to your point, when sometimes we want something so badly, we don't care where we find it. When you went through your situation, were you surprised you found it in the type of person that you found it with, and then ultimately ended up in the situation that you did?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. Can I'm going to answer it this way. When I finally divorced him and I met my husband, who I'm with now, who always says, please make sure people know that's not me you're talking about, because it's not. But when we met, and we've been together 10 years, when we met, he wanted a relationship right away and he wanted that. And I was like, no, 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 no. Because I knew my pattern. I knew who I used to pick. And I was like, no. I knew then I had to not want to marry so badly, not to be in a relationship so badly. And so I pushed him back. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay, when are you going to be the bad guy? When are you going to be? And about 8 years in, he was like, are we good? Are you, I'm not going to be bad. But I learned from the bad that I wasn't going to do it again. I learned enough that, um, and I know people repeat because it's the patterns. It's what we know. It's what we grew up with. It's what we know. Yeah.
When you're working with the looking back on your own life and when you're working with the women that you work with, what are then some of the commonalities that you see in their lives post divorce?
Building back their self-esteem, finding their confidence, afraid of the future. What's it hold? Right? But when they get to the other side of that, oh my God, it's almost like they have superpowers because they realize what was holding them back doesn't hold them back anymore. But you have to figure what that is. But when they do, they're on fire. It's almost like the pendulum has swung all the other way. And then it comes back to where there's a nice balance. But I love watching women walk through it and they go, wow, I'm a badass. Yeah, you are a badass. Yeah, you didn't know it. I'd love to share a story with you when one of my best friends, when I was going through this, I didn't tell anybody because my identity was my business. A few close friends knew and my family knew, but I owed television stations, radio and stations in Austin like $250,000. I mean, I didn't want anybody to know. I worked with Sandra Bullock on Hope Floats. I worked with Robert Rodriguez. We had all these great things going on, and I was so embarrassed. I didn't want anybody to know. And I know a lot of your viewers and listeners are like, that's their identity, is their business. So one of my friends who owns or founded Austin Women Magazine asked me to go to Galveston. And I was like, I can't go to Galveston. I have no money. What are you talking about? And she was like, we'll just eat what's in the refrigerator. It was her home in Galveston. We'll eat, we'll drink whatever's in the pantry. Don't worry about it. Let's just go. So we go. And Saturday night, I say to her, I want to go down to the beach at sunrise on Sunday because I need to go talk to God because I am pissed off. I'm mad at God. It's like, really? Really, God? You could do a miracle like that. Why are you not fixing this for me? Right? Manna from heaven, parting the Red Sea, water to wine, which would have been lovely at the time to have water to wine. I would have loved that. Thank you. I had no money. So I go down the beach and the sun comes up and I'm looking out and again pissed off, yelling at God. And I went, well, wait, maybe there's a wallet or an engagement ring or a diamond bracelet that's washed up on the shore and I can get some money. Maybe that's why I'm down at the beach. So I get up and I start walking down the beach and I'm looking under seaweed and I'm walking out in the water, trying to find money or jewels or something. Half an hour in, nothing. And I look down the beach, Rain, and out loud, I go, are you kidding me? God, show me the treasure on the beach. And as clear as day, I've never heard the voice before. I've never heard it after. I heard, "Oh, LisaBeth, you are the treasure on the beach." And I stopped and I turned around because I thought maybe somebody heard me and was saying that. And I was like, I, and I didn't get it. I didn't get that message. I went back and told my friend Melinda, and I was like, this is what he said. I don't get it. And I, a couple of weeks later, I went to a holiday party for Texas Women in Business, and I was presenting something on stage. And again, I haven't told anybody. I didn't want anybody to know. And I know they held me a little bit on a pedestal because I'd founded this organization, advertising, Sandra Bullock, all these things. And I go in and I'm on stage to do something. And I don't even remember what I was supposed to do. And I look out at the couple hundred women's faces and I went, "I have something to tell you." And I verbally vomited everything that had happened. And the whole time, Train, I'm thinking, here comes my judgment. They're gonna judge me. And when I got done, you could have heard a pin drop, not a peep. And I went, "Well, there it is. I'm judged." And then I got applause and then a standing ovation. And it was a long standing ovation, not as long as Pope Leo when he got his, got become Pope, right? But it was long enough that I could dry my tears and walk off the stage. And this is a long way to answer your question. There was a line of women down the wall waiting to talk to me. I'm anorexic. I've got to file bankruptcy. I want a divorce. I'm miserable. I put this mask on. We were talking about masks earlier. I have this mask on saying everything's okay, and I'm dying on the inside. And the common theme everyone said is if you could get up on stage and share what you're going through and face this fire,